Hello, everyone. I'm Anthony, host of the Caller Meetup. I'd like to welcome you today to a very, very special episode of the Caller Meetup Live. I have my good buddy Brent Dunn on from PPC Mode. It's taken us, several weeks, maybe even months to make this interview video happen. So I'm super stoked to finally have this done. We're ready to kick some ass and talk about some cool stuff today. Brent, welcome, my friend.
How's it going, man?
I'm good. We got through all those blooper reels right there on that intro. We made it. So I've known Brent for a while now, and I would say that Brent is one of the most low-key, best media buyers I've seen out there. But yet a lot of people don't necessarily know who he is, but they find his content everywhere when it comes to media buying, brand building, different affiliate marketing strategies, different techniques. So I'm really hoping the guests today, one, figure out who the fuck Brent is, and then two, really get some good tactical advice, some good strategy, some good vision, some good outlook, et cetera, on how to build their businesses and pay-per-call specifically going into this year. But before we get into the meat of the conversation, Brent, I'd love to hear more about your background. I know a lot about it, but our viewers don't necessarily. So why don't you tell us a little bit about your coming up, how you made it into the affiliate space, and how you got here today?
I'll try and keep it pretty short, but pretty direct. So
Okay.
basically, I grew up in the Central Valley of California. And so basically, when you're out here, you have to make a choice that you make relatively good money, but to do so, you got to drive like 3 hours a day just to get there to work.
Okay.
And so basically what really got me into internet marketing was seeing that my dad had to take so long to commute. So I was like, all right, I'm not doing that. So what do I need to do to make money online? And very early on, how I got into internet marketing was MySpace was just on the rise. This was like 2004. And I stumbled across an ebook basically that taught the basics of it. And we'll go into this in terms of how I made money with it if we start talking about black hat stuff. But let's just
Okay. All right.
started with the money motivation.
You got me hot and bothered already.
Yeah, to get going, that's how you start. But then I naturally just kind of got into different things one at a time, and so that kind of matured into doing SEO for my own sites, my own little blogs and stuff like that. I did some consulting for small businesses, which got me early on into lead gen for local businesses, which then got me into a SEO manager role at a large agency, which kind of changed the game for me, because up until that point, I thought that the affiliate marketing space and making money online was more so for like solopreneurs, just, working at home.
Yeah.
And the whole lead gen business at the corporate level basically was mind-boggling in terms of how much revenue they were able to generate, but they were doing the same things that I was doing previously, running paid traffic and generating leads that way. So then after that, I basically merged into me getting into mobile marketing with Revive Media and I Am Grind. And since then, I've just kind of been doing my own thing in terms of, a combination of all those skill sets that I've acquired.
Oh, cool. Okay, awesome. Yeah, so I know I Am Grind from way back when I started as an affiliate and focusing on mobile. And so you must have been literally thrown into the fire of all types of just techniques on buying media, because you guys were doing a ton of shit then, I got to assume, especially from what I could see on the blog. And I also remember Ruck would put out some white papers on like how to do certain things, and it was fucking awesome. So that alone builds up some of that credibility. So what was the focus when you were doing when you were working with that SEO agency? Like, what were you guys focused on?
It was insurance.
It was insurance? Okay. So you were working in the evergreen vertical when it was fresh. I'm curious, when it came to SEO back then, what year was this?
2011, 2012.
Okay. So what was it like to rank a site then? Like, what was even the algorithm then?
So when I first started, I was coming from, this was pre-Penguin. So basically before they started slapping sites that weren't low quality.
Yeah.
And so when I first joined, a lot of the stuff was ranking based on exact match domain names. So like we had some obscure things. I don't know if I can actually mention any of these domains if they still have them, but for example, it was like musician health insurance and stuff like that.
Oh,
Like
really?
super targeted, yeah, towards, you know, because if you think self-employed people and people that are working for themselves that weren't getting health insurance through their company, they usually convert better for those types
Yep.
of offers. And so it was more so like we had just a ton of sites targeted towards any type of person that kind of fit that mold.
Okay.
And the site, or the company rather, had a few large sites, basically had 2 flagship sites that was like the focus of actually putting out pretty good content, actually answering, you know, what a visitor would be asking and really informing the consumer prior to them actually filling out a lead form.
Oh, gotcha. Okay. So you would have literally a site that maybe would say, it could even say affiliate health insurance. And that was the highest value factor for Google to rank that site.
Because it was the only one.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
That's so simple. All right.
Yeah.
All right, cool. Man. All right. Well, a lot has fucking changed since then. Big time. Big time. So, so Brent, I found you through Gene on my team, I believe. And I think it was really just around the content that you guys were putting out and, you know, exchanging some ideas, maybe even some links at sometimes. And so I found you probably, how long has it been? Like 4 years ago? 3 years ago?
Yeah, I believe so. It was when I
Okay.
put up my pay per call guide initially.
Yeah, that's right. Okay. Yeah, that's right. So rolling from Revived Media to, or I Am Grind to really pay per call, what was that transition like? And also let me back up a bit. I wouldn't say you're only focused on pay per call, but I would say that you have a lot of good content and experience in pay per call that really leads me to believe that, all right, one, Brent is an authority when it comes to media buying and pay per call and also other things. So when it comes to pay per call, when did you start to shift your focus or devote more time to focusing on building your business around calls?
So it was very shortly after I left Revive Media. It was during Revive Media, that was during the growth of mobile apps. So they were getting crazy funding. They didn't know their KPIs. And so, you know, running mobile traffic was relatively simple in terms of making crazy revenue from getting app installs. And so I was really good at mobile media buying, but on the offer side, it was kind of a struggle to find, you know, white hat offers that could be ran on like Google and all that stuff. And so if you think mobile, for me, the next logical thing was, okay, I've got experience doing lead gen. How would people generate leads on a mobile device? Pay per call seems like, you know, click to call seems like a pretty good way to go.
Okay.
And so it was kind of merging those two thought processes of lead generation experience, knowing how to do mobile media buying, and that's kind of how that got together.
Okay, very cool. So do you remember your first pay per call offer?
It was a lawn care offer, and it
Oh,
wasn't national. I basically had the idea of just making an area code. So for example, it'd be like 816lawn.com. And that site may or may not still be up, but basically I would just make these sites with the area code, and then I would just blast them on all sorts of, you know, white pages, put them in the local newspaper, and also run AdWords and stuff like that. And then
okay.
actually turn around and start generating leads and then get clients.
Oh shit. Okay. All right. Awesome. So were you running to networks then, or were you working direct with clients?
That was pre-networks. So I was still at the local level. And the thought process was, if I give these guys some free leads and they're converting them, then obviously they're going to want to keep paying me.
Yeah.
Yeah, it works, but the scaling was an issue, right? So
Yeah.
that's when I started going with networks to get the more national type offers.
Really, right now, I see that I talk to you more, or when we talk, and it's usually for a nice hour out to an hour and a half of rambling about different ideas, but we always usually come back around to brand building and just making sure that you're setting up your strategies and your habits and your tactics towards long-term growth rather than just that short-term type of um, quick cash that, you know, is common in the affiliate space, but I'm not saying everyone does that. So with the brand building side of things that you do, I know at one point we used to talk a lot about the mold site that you've built, and really what you did with that brand, and what you've done with that brand and how you built it, and really just the tactics you put into it to really make it what it is now, rather than just a site that generates traffic. So one thing I talk a lot about with the affiliates over at PALO Media is whenever you're doing something, there should always be some type of equity play in it. So if you're building a brand, you're not just going to build it with SEO. You're going to build it with all types of techniques, with even the traffic that you're monetizing instantly. And so when we started to talk about this mold site that you've built, it really, really caught my attention. And I think there could be some good best, I guess what am I trying to say? There could be some best practices within that could really show people how to monetize what they're doing now and begin to shift it to a brand. So do you want to talk a little bit about what you've done with that mold site, and then we can dive deeper into the tactics?
Yeah. So first, let's kind of take a step back, because you mentioned equity, right? And
Okay.
that's kind of why this type of thinking is very important, because in the affiliate space, you see a lot of people that are just focused on making like $1,000 a day, right? Mm-hmm. I've had plenty of friends make 1,000, sometimes even 10,000 or more a day from a campaign, and then have it flop the very next day. And so I also have friends from the Bay Area who don't make any money for 3 years, and then they get acquired for 200 million. So when you come and when you look at these two groups of people, which one's better? Right. Well, you can merge the two together, right? You don't have to wait 3 years. You could still run campaigns, but do it while you're building up an asset that could later be sold to a large company. It could even be the exact same company that you're generating leads for, because that you've already proved your quality to them, and it's just an easier exit strategy.
Totally. I love that. No, I love that. Because I mean, that was perfectly said, because I think everyone thinks that if I'm going to build a brand, does that just mean I'm working for free for 3 years? It's not. It's none of that shit. Yeah. It's just focusing your efforts so that it's not squeezing every drip of revenue as you can. Squeezing every drip of revenue that's there the second you get that user to take action. And so that equity isn't hard to build. It's just shifting your focus, shifting your roadmap, and all that. So, so with the mold site, like, what was it? How did you start that process and that plan to say, I'm not only going to just buy media for this site, but I'm also going to build this brand so it's evergreen?
So to be 100% truthful, I never ever expected to have a mold site. So
okay,
essentially,
I mean, we all do, right? We all just dream when we wake up.
That's the American dream. So
yeah, okay, yeah, right.
So I had a student of mine that was trying to learn how to run media buying, and he kept doing the same sweepstakes offers, all the low type of consumer value offers. And I was like, okay, what do you know? So long story short, he's a professional mold inspector. And so that is how we kind of started the site, because he's an expert in that field. And I learned very quickly that mold remediation leads can sell from anywhere between $50 to $400 a call. And so you have someone that's an expert that is health related information. And so we were already running. So because he knew that, he knew the terms and stuff that people would be looking up and the services that they would need for those terms, we started to run paid campaigns. But then we very quickly started to also generate content to help answer those exact same questions and start to get traffic organically as well.
Okay, nice. So that's actually, I mean, I guess that's a really cool end to have, because you can you can combine the business operations of what a mold business would be into the media buying process. That's pretty rad. So as you guys started to grow that, what were the different types of media you were using? Was it mainly search, or just pushing some really good content to rank as well?
In terms of generating leads, like early on?
Yeah.
So yeah, we started as search, and we were profitable, but we just noticed that paid traffic is a zero-sum game. As soon as you get number one, you've knocked someone else down, and they're going to do everything they can to reclaim that position.
Yep.
And so we had profit, we were profitable, but we were able to tell that our competition obviously wanted those spots back. And so our ROI just kept dwindling. And so we started to make blog content, and then we also started to make YouTube videos. And even though the blog content now on the revenue side of things actually generates more revenue, early on, the thing that hit the quickest was the YouTube videos.
Okay.
It was kind of because
I like that.
Yeah, because my partner, he was coming at it from an expertise perspective. And then what was great about it is I was an idiot when it came to mold. And so I was able to ask the questions from him of the exact questions that a consumer would have, because not everyone's going to be an expert in mold. And so we started to come up with like a lot of our competition was, for example, going after the scientific keywords. We went after, as opposed to like, the scientific name of a particular mold, we literally went after white mold, blue mold.
Okay.
And my partner's like, those things don't exist. I was like, they do, because they're a color, and that's what someone's going to look up.
Okay. I like that.
And so because there's no competition with going that route, we got traffic very, very quickly from YouTube.
Awesome. Okay. That's great. Nice. I wouldn't think that YouTube would be a heavy volume driver for a very specific type of, I want to say specific, but like a lead gen focused vertical in a way. Because normally it's just, it's like you do for PPC mode. It's brand building, and then you show them how to do something, and then switch them over to that premium service of, hey, I'll show you how to do it, or if you want to learn how to do it even better, reach out to us. So were you putting out content more along the lines of how to clean up red mold from your house?
Yeah, exactly.
And then, okay, so how to, like a DIY, but with a call to action at the end, in terms of, well, hire a professional to get all this done for you quicker, because no one wants rainbow mold in their attic and all that stuff.
Yeah. So there's always, with this particular vertical, there's always people that will just take any risk and just clean, for example, black mold, which is very, if it's toxic, you may, have some issues if you do that.
Yeah,
there's
for
people
sure.
that always take that risk. On the flip side, there's always people that will initially look up what it is, but no matter if it's dangerous or not, they don't want to take that chance. And so they're the ones that will want like a mold inspection. So the industry is really two sides. There's the inspectors, and then there's the remediators. The remediators is the big money, and that's where a lot of the offers were available. But the majority of the consumer side don't know if they actually have mold, or if it's just mildew or just a spot. And so when it comes to volume, it's on the inspector side.
Yeah.
And so we were kind of, how we started to make the money was because we realized that most people are focused on the inspector side of things, but once they learn if they have mold, they're going to come back and need to know the next steps on how to get rid of it. And so we would still answer those very early questions, but our goal wasn't really to get them to call, because it'd be very low quality at that time. We instead wanted to give them a lead magnet. So it was a checklist, and they would enter in their email and get the checklist. And now we at least have them on our list.
Fucking love that, dude. That's such a good magnet right there. That checklist of, we've answered your questions. These are the things you need to do. Here's the checklist of go get it done. We got your email. Maybe even at the time, push. We put you on a push notification. So I love this. By the way, I love walking through this process right now. So what were you doing then when you got them on your email list? Was there like a follow-up? Was there a drip sequence you would do with them or anything similar?
So it took data. So initially when we started, we were just kind of sending them whatever blog post we wrote that week, because we were still building the site up. But as we started to learn what people gravitated towards and when, we started to turn that into a sequence. So if you came into the site and your initial query was how to clean mold off of a shower, then chances are your next question would be, what cleaner should I use? how do I identify where this is coming from? So it would be identifying the problem, removing the problem, and then future prevention of that from happening again. And so that's how we kind of looked at everything.
That's so cool. That's such a cool process. I love how you would literally like the URL parameter alone just into the site can lead to just something 6 months down the road. That's awesome. Yeah. I love that. So were you only focusing on email when you got them to the site, or did you get them to like, I don't know, a push list or a Facebook group or something similar?
So we don't have a Facebook group, but we do add everyone to a retargeting list on every platform.
Okay.
I'm a big fan of, regardless if you're running paid traffic on that platform or not yet, start seeding those pixels now. So if you ever do plan to actually run paid traffic on that source later, you have that list that you can make look like audiences from or retarget to and all these various things.
I love that, dude. I mean, everything you just mentioned right there is so simple, and it's just so easy too, that sometimes I see people, like you said, they pass that up because they just want to be able to generate that revenue and end that transaction. It's very transactional when it doesn't need to be. I mean, there's some ad units, let's say like a call only ad, which you can't necessarily do much with because they're calling right from Google. But if someone is watching this right now and they're getting someone to a website, and the most that you're doing is pixeling them, you're doing yourself a disservice, because you have so much opportunity to build your brand and build other assets on top of that. And an asset is an email list. An asset is a YouTube list. An asset could even be a Facebook group that you roll everyone into once they subscribe to your email list, or maybe they make the phone call on the site. And by doing so, you can get them into an SMS list too. And I'm not saying get them into an SMS list to hammer them with offers, but that could be, hey, we just pushed out a new video on how to prevent mold in your garage. Go and check it out now. And now you get more hits on YouTube. So I love that. That it's perfect. It's just get them to your site, plain and simple, and then start making sure you plant those seeds, pixel them and all that.
The best way to look at it is if you had a situation where you had mold, or you were, trying to buy a boat or something that's a big purchase or a big issue, you're not going to just call the very first number you see on Google and convert. Mm-hmm. It's a very long research process that you have to do as a consumer to make the decision of not only who you should work with, but what is it that you actually need. Because most of these people don't even know, oh, I need mold remediation, or I need a mold inspection, or, whatever it may be. And so when it comes to pay-per-call traffic, in terms of, having your phone number on the first result, you have to, for those keywords to work, they have to be super high user intent that they want to purchase right then and there, which is great because you get the conversion, but it's much more expensive. And so if you go up the user funnel in terms of how close they are to making a purchase, and you get into the answer their questions, help guide them, you can still get that lead later on, but you've kind of held their hand and helped them along in the journey. And so, we all have people we follow in various different things, regardless if it's something you do as a hobby, if it's something that you're wanting to learn, or if you have an issue. And that's the way to think about it, is help them with whatever problem they have now, as long as it's niche relevant, that you can help. You don't want to push offers on them. You want to answer their questions and then lead them down the path of, okay, this is the best solution for you. And hey, if you want, you can call this phone number and get a quote, or whatever it may be.
Yeah. I mean, that was perfectly said. That was perfect. Provide value, and don't try to cram them down the funnel too quick, because you may not be getting that quality phone call that you want for the client. And then you're passing up all of these additional value adds for yourself to build your brand. I love that. So is that mold site still around?
Yeah. So
awesome.
lookmold.com.
Lookmold.com?
Yeah.
Okay, cool. So what's like the long-term goal with that site?
So the initial idea was to generate leads, but it's kind of turned into a lot more than that. And so within the mold inspection space, there's like do-it-yourself home kits, and there's air purifiers, there's all sorts of different products. And so not only do we generate leads, but we also, under certain posts, and depending on which post they join our email list from, we recommend various different products. So we're making money through affiliate links. We started to put ads on our blog on the content side, and everything's kind of interconnected. So when we see that a blog post is doing well, we'll turn around and make a video for it. We will link from the video to the blog post, and then we embed the video into the blog post. And so you're getting that multimedia content. And it also allows people that either are watching a video of that topic that wants a bit more information, or maybe they want to read it on the go or whatever, they go to our site, and vice versa. And so a lot of people, even though it's mold, they will be pixeled for a few days because they'll come back and click multiple times because they're coming back with different information and different answers that they're looking for.
Okay, totally. I love that then. So you've built it past just that typical lead gen flow into that authority there. Yeah, I mean, it could be truly an opinion here, but you've built an authority in terms of mold where you can monetize these users and continue to build that brand. And this kind of brings me, and so this kind of brings me into what you do in terms of taking your model with mold into acquiring websites and acquiring more assets to build those brands out, because you can spend all that time building the mold site, which you should be doing as a media buyer, but then you can also take different avenues to acquire these brands that may have been pre-built. And so one thing that you and I have been discussing recently, and one thing I know you've been focusing on and been trying to educate more on, is acquiring sites and how to find those sites. So what are you doing right now in terms of the site acquisition side?
So the best way to look at it in terms of reasons to acquire a site is when you first make a site and you start writing the content and all that, usually it's going to take at minimum 6 months, more likely a year, before you start to see any type of traffic from Google, unless you're doing, inbound marketing constantly and just trying to drive traffic to your site. And so when it comes to buying sites, what I look for is people that have already gotten over that year hump, but have given up on the project. So basically they started out where they were really excited. Like I know we've all had, you start a new project, you're super excited, put a bunch of time into it. Things are, the timeline's too slow for them, and they eventually give up. And so you find these sites are about a year old. The owner hasn't done anything for like the last 8 months, but if you know what to look for, you could tell if a site's got that foundation where just a little bit of work and you can make it pop, actually getting traffic from, Google or whatever it is. And so as a great example, if you're about to run a diet offer or, whatever vertical it is, it's a good idea to go check to see, is there any types of sites that are relevant to this audience? Because not only is it easy to start getting traffic on those if you know what to look for, but it also gives you the opportunity to be able to add your pixels to that audience once you start getting traffic. So as an example, if it's a vegan site and you're looking to do, food delivery service offer or whatever, you could easily take your pixel and throw it on that blog. And because that traffic is extremely targeted, you're seeding your paid pixel with data that you couldn't necessarily target on that traffic source by itself.
I love that. Okay. I love that. I love that method right there. So when it comes to finding these sites, are there certain, so you said there are sites that you necessarily, still can't speak right now, dude. So when it comes to finding the actual site, I know you said that there are sites you look for when it comes to, like, let's say someone's passion project or they've given up after a year. Do you have certain guidelines that you always stick within, or certain guidelines when it comes to avoiding certain sites to make sure that your purchase is, or your investment is actually a sound investment?
Yeah. So, there's always risk with, purchasing anything, especially if it's a
Yep.
website. The main thing I look for is I really focus on the content. So even if a site is already getting a massive amount of traffic, but the content's garbage or it's all over the place and not very focused, I won't buy the site, because what I'm looking for is a very, very focused site in terms of whatever it is that that author wanted to write about. And the fact that it was aged. So they wrote some content, and there's no actual limit or requirement of how much content is on the site. Anything is good, but generally like at least 10 blog posts of
Okay.
relevant content is a good starting point, because generally if that site isn't getting any traffic and you have 10 high quality blog posts and you buy the site for like $1,000, the risk there is bare minimum you bought those 10 blog posts for $1,000, and if they're high enough quality,
Okay.
you essentially just outsourced for a writer.
I like that. That's a cool way.
And so if the site's got this good content and they didn't do anything shady, so like I'd never like to see a huge spike in traffic like right before sale, because that means most likely that they did something black hat and their intention is to sell it. So you're going to buy it at its peak and then it's going to crash, most likely.
Yeah.
Instead, what I like to see is, regardless of how much traffic it has, I want it to be steady. If they didn't put any work in for the last year, I want it to be as steady as possible. And what that tells me is, okay, the owner stopped putting work into it, but it retained its rankings. It retained wherever it's getting traffic from for a year, which means that this is an actual valuable site. Because if I come in and start adding new content or making easy changes for SEO or changing or turning the content into video and audio, the thing's going to grow in most cases.
Yep. Okay.
And so when I say passion project, it doesn't have to be like, someone that was vegan for 300 years when they're making a vegan blog.
Yeah. All right.
It as long as the content is quality, like if you read it and it's something like, okay, yeah, this actually makes sense to me, then it's worth it in most cases.
Okay. Nice. All right. Awesome. So I like that. I like how you look at it with the content, by the way. That's a really cool way to look at it. And it's a good way to justify the cost too, if that content is really good. That's great. So with and then also with that steady traffic with no or minimal work there, that is super exciting, because then me as a skilled media buyer or someone who can really grow a site, it has such a dense and strong foundation to build on top of, that I'm not going to have to wait, and this is strictly my opinion, but I'm not going to have to wait that additional, let's say 6 months, maybe even a year to see some results. Those results will come faster as long as you're still doing things the right way.
Exactly.
So I love seeing that. And when it comes to actually finding these sites, do you use things like Flippa? Do you use other assets to find them?
Yeah, I use Flippa. I have used other brokers, and I've even found sites through like some random keyword in my niche that they rank for, and I could tell that they haven't posted for the last year, and I'll reach out to them. That hasn't had as much success, but when you do it that way, you actually can get the site cheaper, because you got to look at it from, if you own that site and you weren't doing anything with it for a year, and then I come along and offer you like $1,000, you're like, okay, because not doing anything with it, right? And
yeah, there's no seller's mentality to it.
Exactly. When they're going to Flippa, they are already expecting to sell it, and they're already starting to see other people bidding. If it's a good site, they're already starting to see engagement. And so I always try to offer the seller a certain buyout price quickly to take it down. So I never have to, like on Flippa, so I never have to bid. A lot of times they'll deny it. I have had times where it's worked, but you want to try and get it off the books as quickly as possible if it's a good site, because there are other people out there that do recognize that opportunity, that sometimes will bump it up just to where your price range is, and then people that may not know what the site's actually worth but just see that everyone's bidding on it thinking that's going to be super valuable, they'll come in and bid an extra $500 that is way overpriced, way overvalued for that site or something like that.
Okay. Okay. Gotcha. Yeah, I mean, I would say I see that. I mean, I go on Flippa most likely not as much as you, but I see a lot of that. And I mean, would you say that, I don't know, 80% of what you see on Flippa may not be valuable to this type of strategy, and you really have to be patient for what you want to buy?
Yeah, for sure. So if you come in with the mindset that you see a site and you get super excited about the vertical, which I still do. Sometimes I'll see a site and start thinking up all the different possibilities
Yeah.
of what I could turn it into. Don't fall in love with the project, bid on it, put your exact, what you think it's worth, bid that. Don't look at it again. If you win it, you lose it. It's whatever. Because when you start
Okay.
sitting there and watching it, um, and once again, me and my partner will still do this, but sometimes it gets us in trouble where we're sitting there watching it and then it goes like $50 above, $100. It's like, I'm just going to put that extra
Yeah.
bid in there. You start making mistakes. And so in terms of how frequently you could find something that's valuable, I would say it's probably like 5%. In terms of really it's basically finding a house that you can flip,
Yeah.
right?
Hmm.
But you're not trying to flip it. You're just trying to find something that the owner doesn't know how valuable it is. Most people don't know how valuable it is because it's not valuable at the moment in terms of the traffic it's getting, but it's very, very easy to, polish it up and then it'll be profitable.
Okay, gotcha. I mean, that's a really good analogy to use when it comes to like flipping a house, because you're you're definitely gonna, if you're driving past a house that really looks like it has potential but has been vacant for years, but it's not listed on, let's say, a real estate website like a Zillow or something, you're gonna have a better opportunity to try and get that off the owner's hands. Whereas if it's listed on Zillow, everyone's seeing it. Now the competition's up, and there's going to be a premium to pay on that because the seller is expecting something. So let's just use that example, and maybe you have some tips here or some easy techniques for these listeners or viewers to follow. But when you're not on Flippa and you're not on maybe an Empire Flippers or something like that, do you have any do you have any processes or systems you use to help find those sites, or is it really just using SEO tools that you have at hand to identify them?
So I will say one thing. This is still kind of flippa, but it's not something I think a lot of people think about, is if you find a site that's good and you win it on flippa, always ask that seller if they have any other sites, because
Oh, okay.
there's been sites that I've bought like a portfolio from one particular person that has built, shiny object syndrome. They're just building sites constantly.
Hmm.
And that one site was quality and a lot of their other sites were quality as well. And I didn't have to compete against anyone. The other thing is if I'm about to run a new vertical, I start looking on Quora, start to see questions, start to uh, try and get a feel for the actual market and what people are asking. And then I'll start to actually do research on possibilities of making my own site. So if I ever stumble across a site from that, that's generally when I reach out, because that allows me to buy a site in the exact vertical when
Oh,
I'm wanting to actually run it.
I like that. So you essentially take it from I guess you take it from the route of what seems to be trending or growing, and then how would I, as a customer in this vertical, enter in the research process and learn more about it, and then see really who I cross paths with along the way.
Exactly.
I like that. That's a really, really good method, because yeah, you as the customer, when you take that mentality, you're going to be attracted towards the sites that are providing you the value, and those are going to be the most valuable assets to begin to look at. I like that. I like that process. Um,
One other one for you, which
okay.
I've done once, so I can't say I'm an expert at it, but there's definitely other opportunity out there. Is you go on Amazon and you look up whatever it is that you're trying to, you know, create an offer for or run traffic for, and you try and find these ebooks, the what are they called? The Kindle ones that are basically free
Hmm.
and with no views, no reviews, nothing like that, but is like a year old or 2 years old. It's a very similar mentality. Uh, you can reach out to that author and then buy the rights to the book. And if nothing else, a lot of times they'll have a site as well. Well, depending on how much you can get the book for, usually an ebook is anywhere between 10,000 words to 50,000 words, and they're in chapters. And so you can buy that, get the rights to it, turn around and turn that book into either a lead magnet within itself, or you could take all that content and turn it into blog posts and have an entire site to that niche.
Fucking love that, dude. That's an awesome little hack right there. Yeah, and that's a super lead magnet. That's great. I never even thought about it like that. Whew. Okay. All right. Hell yeah. So I'm just curious, how many sites are part of your portfolio right now, if you can share?
Probably got about 40 sites, but I would say ones that are actually getting traffic at the moment are probably substantial traffic, probably about 15.
Okay.
And so we've actually just ramped up, I would say, in the last 3 months, buying a lot more sites. We're still trying to be patient, because not trying to get burned buying, thinking with the mentality that I have to buy a certain amount of sites a month or whatever. Just want to buy them as they come, as long as they still seem like a good opportunity, but then also have the resources to be able to do what we need to do to build that site up as well.
Okay, cool. That's a nice number to have. Even if it was just the 15 sites that are getting substantial amount of traffic, that's great. That's a really nice portfolio to have. And then as well, I think as those sites grow, you can probably use those to help grow the other sites too, with you can call it guest blogging in each other's sites and cross-linking and all that.
I wouldn't suggest that so much.
I get that part. Yeah.
One thing I will say is, once you get to the point where maybe you get bored of a site as well, like maybe you don't have any offers for it or whatever, as long as you built up the traffic, generally if you're generating revenue through ads, for example, and you started with 5,000 visitors, you built it up, and it's been consistent for like the last 6 months, and now it's getting 10,000 visitors a month, you could flip that. You could actually sell the site and make a substantial amount of money that way as well, and use that project. So that's kind of where the equity discussion we had earlier comes into play. Is if you're just running an offer, you're not ever, like, no one's going to buy your offer in terms of your campaign, right?
Yeah.
You can't really sell an affiliate campaign to someone.
Right.
However, with a site, if you build up an email list and all this stuff, that is all an asset. And one thing to think of is a lot of people will build an email list. So to go back to Look Mold, one thing that we do differently than what a lot of people do with their email list is, instead of just asking for their email, we will also ask if they're a homeowner or a renter and stuff like that, because we add all this data to our email database with the intention of, if we were ever to sell this to a company, what do you think is more valuable? Oh, we have 10,000 records. We have 10,000 emails of people that submit their email, or we have 10,000 homeowners that are between the ages of 45 and 60 who make an income of 100,000 a year. Obviously, that is going to be worth a lot more money.
Definitely. That's a way deeper data profile on everything. And it's so much more valuable. So we could keep going into these tactics forever. But I want to roll this into that topic of, hey, let's talk more tactics, but let's not do it here. I want to know more about what you're doing with PPC mode and how you're trying to educate individuals. Cause I've been in your forum right now, and it's fucking phenomenal, dude. The people in there, the content, being able to see your face and behind a blue screen or in front of a blue screen. How many other colors do you have available?
Well, because it's blue screen, I can have any color, but the back of
the
screen.
Can we, well, let's show us a different color. Okay. All right. We're going to go with black. All right.
It's hard to actually change the color. I'd have to mess with it, but yeah.
We can stay with PNG, Brent. So what are you trying to do? And we can wrap up with this topic right here, but what are you trying to do with the elite forum on PPC mode? What are you trying to educate individuals on? What are the focuses? Who's in there? Like, give me the lowdown on that.
So yeah, I mean, with the forum, with the mastermind, it's more focused on everyone building up assets, because for the last few years, I've definitely seen this trend of traffic's getting harder. Buddies that used to be killing it in a certain offer or vertical are struggling now, and everyone's kind of going the route of building up e-com stores or building up their own sites and stuff like that. And so this mastermind is really trying to get as many people with that same mindset together and help build up assets that not only make money now, but we could eventually later sell for, substantial amounts of revenue, as opposed to, just focus on the daily revenue gain.
Yeah.
In terms of who's in there, I mean, we've got everything from media buyers. It's going to sound like an infomercial, but it's true. We got like super affiliates. We got network owners like yourself in there. We've got people that are in some random niches that you would have never thought are making as much money as they are in that niche. And everyone from people that are about to be on TED Talks to everything. It's really more so focused on everyone's trying to figure out what their vertical is and really build up either themselves or build up a brand in that vertical to be able to dominate it.
Okay. That was a good pitch, especially with the TED Talk side.
One of the guys in the mastermind just said they got a TED Talk. That's pretty crazy.
About your forum, and this isn't a knock at other forums, but I would say if I was to focus on one forum and have a very concentrated type of content, it would be brand building. And when it comes to brand building, you got to make sure you're getting your information from the right places, and your forum is that place that I would look at. And so when I tell affiliates or media buyers or whoever, hey, what do you suggest I do with my strategy around media buying or my business and all that when it comes to media buying or even just being an affiliate? I tell them, you got to start to build that equity, and you really need to look at building that brand. And as well, you need to continue to educate yourself, because it's the strongest piece there. So when you're on a lot of these other forums, you may not get that focused content from individuals who have done it. So if you're watching or listening to this right now, I would highly, highly, highly suggest checking out Brent's forum. It's, and I wouldn't even call it a forum. Like you said, I call it a mastermind, because you have some A+ players in there that really do some good shit. And so if you're watching or listening to this, I would highly suggest checking out this mastermind to see if this fits into your business model. And if it does, it could really help 10x your business over this next year, or even prepare yourself for a 10x growth. And we'll include a link to that for everyone that's listening to this. But what's the website for the mastermind, Brent?
It's elite.ppcmode.com.
Okay. All right. Very cool. So, dude, we've been talking for an hour right now. And I don't want to keep you too long, even though like we could keep talking forever. So I want to wrap this up with a few questions just about you, and we can make it quick. You can take as long as you want. It's all good. But the first question I have, and we started to talk about this in the beginning, was, do you have any cool black hat stories?
Yeah.
I like that exhale.
Talk about them, but we'll see.
All right.
So yeah, I mean, it was one of the first things I did was, social media was on the rise. It was MySpace at the time, and there was a lot of bots that was more so geared towards generating more friends. Like, you could search whatever criteria you wanted. It would sit there and search. It would make a whole list of these people, and it would start just sitting there adding them. And so I had that because I figured, oh, well, if I grow my profile, then, whatever I do, I could just make a post. And really, it was just trying to get people to buy the same ebook that I originally bought. Well, that didn't work, but I still had that software. And so I noticed that other people were promoting a piece of software that would increase your plays on MySpace, because there was the music element to MySpace.
Yeah.
And it was a pretty simple algorithm. Whoever had the most plays was number 1 through 10 in order of that week or month, whatever it was. I don't really recall. And so this software would boost up your views or your plays.
Okay.
And so I had this bot, and then now I joined this affiliate program for this software. And so what I started doing is I started finding people that were in like the 1,000 to 5,000 range of the list, and I added them all to my bot. And then I just send them a simple message that was like, hey, my buddy is using the software and it's doing well for him. Check it out. And it would just sit there and blast those messages out constantly. And that was really my first success with basically seeing that you actually can generate revenue. But it was,
oh, really?
Yeah, online. So I made like $1 or $2 from like, I think it was like Ezonic or whatever the article writing service was.
All right.
But this was like $30 per sale reoccurring. And it was pretty
substantial. Really?
Yeah.
It was reoccurring too.
Yeah.
Woo, all right.
So it was pretty good. So I got one other one. I don't want to mention any of the names because they're very big companies. So there was a video service that had a free trial available, and they were paying $7 at the time to get people to sign up to this. And let's just say that they delivered movies to your home. And so
all right. Oh, who could that be? Blockbuster.
And so I was like, man, how am I gonna advertise this offer? And so, I started thinking about, all right, when you watch a movie, what are different types of things that lead you up to that? And yeah, there's popcorn. Well, there's not much opportunity there. I'm not gonna be able to run this on a popcorn website or something like that. And so I had the idea of pizza. And so this is where things get a bit sketch, because I didn't actually necessarily ask the companies, the pizza places, corporately to be able to do this, but I had friends that were delivery drivers. And so what I would do is I would just make a link that was like a printout, and it was just said pizza in a movie ? And there was just a link to basically the offer URL. And I would give that to my buddy, and he would pass them out with the pizzas when he was delivering the pizzas. And the crazy thing about that is it made a shit ton of money, but because it was local, it went and then just tapered off extremely quickly. So I would say those are my two biggest.
I've never heard an offline black hat technique like that before. That leads into online. It's fucking awesome. How did you create the printout? Was it like just MS Paint?
Kinko's or whatever. Oh, you mean actually making it?
Yeah, the design.
Yeah, at the time I was, let's say it was like 2008, 2009 Photoshop skills.
Okay.
You got filters on there, and I'm sure it looked awesome.
Yeah.
Print out. But yeah, it was more so, as long as it looked formal enough, then it would have worked, right? Because
that's amazing. I love that. Okay. All right. That's awesome. That was like early days of Fiverr in a way, but with pizza drivers. Okay. Yeah. All right. Nice. Nice. So what are your top three favorite marketing tools?
I would have to say, man, that's a tough one. I'm going to go off the cuff and not go with any paid tools. How about that? I'm going to say that.
Oh, look at you hipster.
Well, I would say you need a tracker. I'm not going to say any specific tracker, but if you're not tracking your data, if you're not tracking your campaign, you're not tracking, what you're doing, then what are you doing, right?
Okay.
You need data to have success. The other one that you really need to be using is Google and Quora. Now, I know people are like, what the hell is this guy talking about?
Yeah, do you got a link to those?
It's a small startup. I don't want to be a hipster or anything, but you probably never heard of them.
Yeah, cool.
But yeah, really focus on whatever you're trying to run. Really try and get into the mindset of who it is that you're trying to run your offers to, and who your offer would best serve, and really start to understand them. So the best way to do that is to go to communities that they're at, go to blogs, read their comments, see their questions, all that stuff, because that all leads into not only content that you can create with those answers, but it also starts to help you come up with angles to help actually, sell your products and services or whatever it is that you're trying to promote.
Okay. Gotcha.
And I know I said no paid tool because I was originally just going to say those, but I'll say one more. If you don't have an email list, now's really people have been saying this since the dawn of the internet, but it's really time for you to get an email list. because the power is that if all the, like, if Google said, we're not sending anyone traffic anymore, we're shutting down operations, you need something. And an email list allows you to still communicate with your audience, because we don't know what the future holds. You know, Facebook may say, you know, we're out of the social game. We're getting too many problems with data. We're switching over to VR and AI. That's our new focus, right? That's going to wreck people that have built their communities only on these platforms. Email pads you against that. It gives you another way to communicate with your audience.
I love that. It's literally the only thing that you have complete control over when it comes to these things.
There's not a single gatekeeper.
Yeah. Yep. And so I like that. And I look at it as, like, think of the doomsday scenario when your ad source or your traffic source is gone. And so what have you extracted from that traffic source, or what do you have left that you, like you said, you are the only gatekeeper on, and it's your email list. It's so simple. And I think I don't know if it's just because of delivery rates, but people think email is going out of style, but it's not. It's just, it is more difficult with, let's say, Gmail and inboxing with Gmail and their different folders, but it's still an extremely valuable list that you can always ensure that you're providing more value into, and giving your readers more than someone else can, because you can control everything. And obviously, if you're not spamming them, you're free of pretty much all regulation.
Yeah. And if you're really providing them content, they're going to stick around quite a long while. And so I'm sure you've had similar experiences where I'll be on someone's email list and I'll be on it for years. And maybe I don't open every email, but maybe 6 months later, I haven't visited their site or watched any of their content. And they send me an email and it's, oh, they filmed a new video. And it's something I'm interested in at that time.
Yeah.
Now I'm back in, I was aware of them, but now I'm back in that, oh, let me consume all this content that I missed before.
Yeah.
And that gets them back into your little circle of content.
Yeah, no doubt. Exactly. I love that. Do you have a favorite podcast that you listen to?
I actually don't really listen to podcasts that much. I would say, I don't know how to pronounce his name. Naval. I'll have to find it and send it to you, but it's basically an investor in Silicon Valley that basically just talks about everything that he's learned, different things that he's thought about. And it's very, very, very good information. He doesn't put out podcasts often, but it's definitely worth it when you look, to listen to it when he does.
Okay. Cool. What about a blog? Do you have like a favorite source of content that you always refer to, outside of PPC mode, obviously, that you like to refer to a lot?
It's like a collection of people based on whatever it is that I need to learn. Brian Dean is more so on the SEO side.
Yeah, he's got great content.
Yeah. So from those of you that don't know, Backlinko, some people may not like Neil Patel, but his stuff is pretty legit.
Yeah. I'm a fanboy.
He at least puts stuff out before others.
Yeah.
So like if there's something that is changing, he's usually the one that will at least get you started in the right direction of, making the right changes. Yeah, I mean, there's just so many people. I mean, one thing I did early on was I started to collect people based on what they write about, and then I put them all in an RSS feed. Right?
Okay.
And that sounds old as hell, but
yeah,
it allows you to kind of just browse quickly what they're all doing.
Yeah, that's what, actually I do the same thing, but I mean, I just use an RSS app essentially. I think it's called Feedly, and it plugs everything in. Okay, cool. I love Brian Dean's shit. Like, it's just so in depth. It's it can be very, very long form, but it's like, can you make this longer? Because this is great shit.
He teaches you in two ways, because not only is he teaching you based on the content, but how he's doing things, you can also learn from. Like, if you really look into how much effort he puts into his content, to make it visually appealing and to separate him from everyone else, because he's literally in the niche SEO, which is probably one of the most competitive terms for SEO.
Mm-hmm.
And he's dominating the space. And it's because his content is so far gone from everyone else in terms of, how good of how it's packaged, how it's delivered, all that stuff.
Yeah, it's sometimes when I read that, I'm like, this guy's an alien. There's just this doesn't exist anywhere. So yeah, totally. So we'll put links in this, but I highly suggest anyone listening to go and check out Brian Dean Baglinko. Do you have a certain book that you refer to people a lot that you enjoy?
Influence.
All right, you were ready for that question.
It's Influence and Persuasion. And you're going to ask me who wrote it. I'll have to get back to you on that.
Okay.
Because it's more so the psychology of why people do things. And so it's a book about how to apply psychology with marketing. And it's very, very powerful.
Okay.
So, he goes into, he does basically tests with people. And so as an example, one of the tests he did was learning about reciprocity. And so what he would do is he would hand someone like a Coke and then let them drink it and then ask them to do something, as opposed to versus him just walking up to someone and asking them to do something. Obviously, the people that got the Coke first, even though it was a very small value of something, and what he'd ask them would be something like, can I have $20? Is a Coke worth $20? No, but a lot more people, because you gave them the Coke first, would do it. And so that translates into this whole train of thought of trying to produce as much helpful stuff as you can early on. And if you're the one that helped them, they're more likely to convert on your stuff later.
Yeah. I love that. I mean, that's a lead magnet at its root.
Yeah.
That's perfect. Okay. I got 2 more questions for you, my friend. What's the first hour of your day look like?
So it's really about kind of taking, so I have a spreadsheet of ideas that is basically the hit list of content that I want to make or a campaign that I want to test or something like that. And then I take all those different ideas that I could do and I figure out which ones do I feel like I'm ready for or motivated to do. And then I start to move those over into this is what I'm going to actually do today. And then I get into the research flow of things. I try and avoid as much as possible talking to anyone, emailing, any type of communication, watching any type of video or consuming anything, because then it starts to get me into a spiral of, if I watch one YouTube video about a topic that, triggers the thought, then all of a sudden I'm researching the topic all the way down. And so it's really focused on really trying to figure out what are you going to do for the day. And if you need to work out after that, at least now that you know what you're going to work on, while you're working out, you could be processing and thinking about, okay, how am I going to best, make this piece of content, or how am I going to best launch this campaign, or whatever it may be.
Okay. All right, cool. I would have to say you're one of the few individuals that I know who get legit into a flow and I just can't reach you. Or I'll just look at my phone and it'll be like, oh, Brent just messaged me at 3 a.m. with a question.
Yeah, so my parents get pretty pissed at that. My fiance is used to it. She'll get to the point where she'll text me, and if I don't answer, then she'll hit me up on like Discord or, all sorts.
You gave her access?
She's just hitting me up on everything.
Okay. All right. You're a good man then, I guess. You gave her access to all the other dungeons. All right, cool. And so the last question I have before we wrap this up, and I ask all my guests this, is what is the single best piece of advice that you've been given and that you would give?
Man, that's pretty hard.
Is that the advice?
Yeah, that's the advice. So, I would say when you're really thinking about what you're trying to achieve, focus more long-term than short-term, because every time I've really thought short-term, I've made choices that have resulted in kind of slowing me down compared to people that have always thought long-term, and where they're at today it compared to, where I'm at against them is insane because they thought so much ahead. So for example, like in chess, what makes a master versus a grandmaster is a grandmaster is thinking 16 to 17 moves ahead. A master's thinking 15 moves ahead. The average basic chess player's 1 or 2 moves ahead. So that's the main difference that makes a grandmaster versus, someone that's on the lower of the totem pole.
Yes, I love that analogy, and I use it so much, and I sound like a psychopath sometimes because I go too deep into it. But I can't fucking agree with you more. It's just, slow down, think about what's going to happen in the future. What is the 16th step? Can't even say that. 16th step. And don't focus on steps 14 through 16. Just get there. Just know what it looks like, though, when you get there, and then you won't have any issues being productive and kicking some ass. So, Brent, we're close to how many minutes right now? We're close to an hour and 17 minutes right now. This has been awesome, extremely thorough. Guaranteed, I'm going to hear more from you on the Caller Meetup Facebook group and everything else when we post this. But how can our viewers, listeners reach you if they want to?
So you can check out my blog at ppcmode.com. If you join my list, or even if you don't, you can just contact me. I do answer emails. Like I said, it may be, a day or two, because like Anthony said, I will get into the flow of just blocking all communications. But just know that I will get back to you. And yeah.
All right, cool. Awesome, brother. Well, dude, this was an awesome time talking about all these things. I'm hoping I know our viewers will get some type of value from this, and I hope they really put it into their business and get tactical. But thanks again, dude. I really appreciate it. I'll talk to you later.
Awesome. Thanks, man.
All right, peace.
Bye.